Well, France 24's Gallagher Fenwick is following events for us. He joins us from Miami Beach in Florida. Gallagher, what more do we know about the path of the storm?
Well, at this point, according to meteorological experts who are tracking minute by minute the path of Hurricane Irma, it seems that it's taking a little bit more of a westerly path. If you look at a map of Florida, now the Keys are at the southernmost tip of this sun-drenched or usually sun-drenched state. They might very well, those Keys, especially Key West at the very southern tip of the Keys, might end up in the very heart of this hurricane system, in the eye of the hurricane, if you will. And then it's expected to come back up along the coast, the Gulf Coast, so hitting the western parts of Florida, and therefore leaving cities such as Tampa Bay, Fort Myers, and others on the western fringes of Florida a lot more exposed than other parts of the Sunshine State. Now, as you mentioned, there's a quick evolution. We were speaking a little bit earlier of this hurricane having been brought down to a Category 3. Remember that it has been shifting sort of back and forth over the past 24, 48 hours between a hurricane, a Category 5, 4, and 3. Nonetheless, authorities continue to warn residents out here in Florida to take this thing very, very seriously, and certainly not to let their guard down, even when there are announcements of this thing being sort of lowered to a lower category, saying to take this thing very seriously, to hunker down and to seek shelter.
Okay, and I'm just looking at the scene there, the trees obviously blowing in the wind behind you, some cars driving past, people walking around. Tell us a little bit more about what the situation is like in Miami specifically, and also tell us about what the authorities there are telling residents to do.
Absolutely. Well, I happen to be in Miami Beach right now, which is one of the areas which received a mandatory evacuation order. It's a very low-lying area, so very early on, authorities handed this evacuation order to residents out here. Very many, a vast majority of those who live here on a permanent basis chose to leave because of the predictions that were being made at the time. Now, as the news concerning Irma evolves, you have folks who are feeling that it might be a little bit safer. Remember that we still have perhaps a small window of opportunity before this hurricane actually makes landfall in Florida, which explains why some sort of residents, perhaps a little less cautious than others, are sort of stepping out and trying to take a look at how exactly this feels from the outside, because remember that very many of the folks who are hunkered down in their apartments actually are not physically aware of what's going on in terms of the intensity of the winds, whether or not there's rain, how strongly it's raining, and how these skies look from the outside. But authorities have made it very clear. They want people out of harm's way. They want people to move towards shelters, towards the inside of the coast, and those who want to stay, they want them indoors, hunkered down in hurricane-proof buildings or rooms with their goods, provisions, and monitoring the news very closely on local channels and radios. Authorities have told us, for instance, that they cannot force people to leave. Those who want to stay behind because they want to protect their property or because they feel that they have nowhere to go can do so. But that's really not the preferred choice of municipal authorities out here in Miami, which have really, extended the perimeter of mandatory evacuation far beyond Miami Beach, and this as of more than 24 hours. So people still keeping their guard up, but feeling that perhaps this time in Miami, at least, they might be part of the more fortunate ones to be somewhat spared, although meteorological experts are warning that Miami will likely be exposed to what they call severe storm winds, very powerful gusts of winds that are very dangerous because of the debris that fly around.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for bringing us up to speed. France 24's Gallagher Fenwick in Miami. Thanks again.